Well, if you heard my show yesterday, you'd know about this. This man is somebody I've been looking forward to for him to roll into studio. Godfrey Joseph Pereira has written a book called Bloodline Bandra, something that I really enjoyed reading. The great part is, it's not just a fictional novel, because if you look deeply, there are nuggets of Pali village life. And all of us who've had East Indian friends, I mean, one of my closest friends grew up in Ranva. And if you ever floated around the community in Ranva village or in Pali village, you always wonder what the backstory of these characters really is. And I'm proud to say that after Bloodline Bandra, which is Godfrey Joseph Pereira's novel, I look upon Pali village, Ranva village, and all those wonderful communities in a totally different light. What's up, Godfrey? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm going to first start with something that your character actually explains in the novel. But in simple terms, why are East Indians called East Indians even though they reside in the west of India?
Right, that's kind of interesting because what happened at that time was that a lot of the Goans were coming in to Bandra and into Bombay to get work. A lot of the Goans, a lot of the Mangalorians, and the English didn't like it because the Goans were primarily Portuguese citizens, and they were coming here to take jobs from the Bombay Catholics, who were British subjects, so to speak. So to ratify this problem, the English did this. Actually, Queen Victoria ratified it on a Golden Jubilee, that now the Bombay Catholics would be known as East Indians to differentiate them from the Goan Catholics. So the Bombay Catholics would get the plum jobs because they were members of the empire, so to speak. So that's how this segregation happened. And it's funny, they were called East Indians because of the East India Company, but you know, they're from the West. And if you ask the East Indians this, they were like, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? But you know, that's the way this really happened.
And you yourself, my friend, you grew up in Pali village
Right.
all your life, and then you moved to the US of A, didn't you? Yeah.
Then I moved to the US, after my stint in journalism in India. I worked for a lot of newspapers. I covered the first Gulf War in Israel where I was stationed, and then
Which is what your central character, your protagonist David, does in the novel, doesn't he?
Right, he does. And there are parts of me that are in David Cabral. Obviously, there are parts of me.
Well, if you did fall in love with a beautiful cello player who plays in Grand Central Station, you're a lucky man.
Well, no, I didn't. I wish. She seems to be a very beautiful character that just came right off my head. But no, I didn't. Hatsumi, yes, Nakamura, beautiful girl.
More conversation with Godfrey Joseph Pereira. Bloodline Bandra is the novel. It's Paul Simon. You can call me Al. My name is Hrishi K, 9:13 in the morning. Paul Simon, seeing the concert in Central Park with Simon and Garfunkel, man, there were a lot of goosebump moments in that particular one. This, of course, is Paul's solo. Chevy Chase is in the video. You can call me Al, 9:17 in the morning. Bled in Bandra, but moved to Western Shores did Godfrey Joseph Pereira. Bloodline Bandra is his ode to Pali village. It's not as rosy as it seems, does it, Godfrey Joseph Pereira? I mean, in your book, David Cabral, his mates come back from Dubai, from Muscat, smoking 555 and wearing these gold watches. And the protagonist, which is David's mom, and his immediate family turn around and say, you should also go abroad. So you have all these kids from Pali village and the adjoining areas going abroad, and they come back, and have us believe that it's all rosy and golden, but that's not really true. And that's what David, the central character, goes through when he goes to America first. So talk about that process of going abroad for these boys.
Well, the process of going abroad is, let's start with the Middle East, okay? Let's start with today. You've got these Indian agents who are absolutely corrupt, sending all these hordes of young Keralites and young people from the south going to build Dubai. And if you see the way they are treated out there, they're living in cattle sheds, they are being underpaid. that's what I call legal slavery. I've always called it legal slavery. It's what happened to me in New York City. It's basically what happens a lot all over the world. Legal slavery is a big problem. Now, these young people in the Middle East especially are exploited every day. Exploited. Their passports are taken. They don't show it when they come back home because they're ashamed of what they're doing out there. But the fact is, they are being treated as slaves. And unfortunately, a lot of Indians are involved with this. A lot of Indians. And this happens all the time, all over the world. And I don't know why there are so many Indians who do this. If you go to the Facebook page of Bloodline Bandra, we have a section there called the Global Indian Slave Index, where you see time after time all over the world how Indians treat other Indians. And it's sad because as an Indian, it makes your head, hang a little more in shame for what they do. Again, I must stress that there is a better side to this. There are Indians who go out there who do very well, who follow the laws, who do everything else. But there is a darker side to Indians all over the world. There is a darker side to all the successes that Indians have. There's a very, very dark side. And I thought, if nobody's going to say this, I'm going to say this. Somebody has to say this because it happened to me.
Like he says, there are both sides of the story. David, the central protagonist, goes to New York City and he has a tyrant of a boss called Manu. And at the same time, he has this wonderful couple who literally take him in when Manu throws him out. And that's what we're going to talk about next, which is the H-1B visa in America, which actually is a double-edged sword, and how Indians are ill-treating Indians abroad. 9:20 in the morning, going to put up pictures of Godfrey Joseph Pereira hanging in studio at HRISHIKAY on Twitter. You can follow that handle, you'll see them on the timeline, and you can react to those pictures, and you can ask any questions, react to this interview. Facebook.com/radio1.mo, MARADIOONE.MUM. Like the page, likewise you'll see them on the timeline. And if you're SMS savvy, one space, anything you want to ask, your reactions, and your name to 53650. That's the SMS line. My name is Hrishi K. George Michael, Freedom 90.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
Godfrey Joseph Pereira. If you have friends who lived in Pali village or in the neighborhood, you'd know exactly what he's talking about. If you don't, it's a wonderful way to discover Bandra. Bloodline Bandra, the novel, is out. HarperCollins publisher, and it's available at all major bookstores as well as online, and I strongly suggest that you guys read it. Okay, the characters all have prefixes or something added on to their name, somebody shits a lot or something. Give us a few samples of characters in Pali village, and it's absolutely true because most of them do, right?
Well, the truth is that at that time, everybody had a nickname. Everybody. I mean, if you didn't have a nickname, you obviously probably didn't belong. You had, small tree, big fruit, which is, a young girl.
Well-endowed young girl.
A well-endowed young girl who was short. And what I haven't said in the novel is there was also a big tree, no fruit. I figure you'll understand what I'm talking about. Sure. So we had all these names, and there was, Tommy eats shit a lot, and there was Bosco Big Stomach. It went on and on and on. And the thing is, there was Thelma Two Teeth, all these names, and the characteristics of what the person was given to the character, because like small tree, big fruit, for obvious reasons. And so this happened all along, all the time. In fact, if you go to St. Andrew's Cemetery, some of the prefixes on their names are before the names. So that name stuck with you for life and death. And it's like Frederick Fakir, I think, in the novel. It came out of because his parents weren't giving him money to buy sweets at that time. So he went around, begging in the village for sweets. He just wanted sweets, and he got the money. And from that time on, his name was Freddy Fakir. And he remained Freddy Fakir all his life.
And the other end of the spectrum, there are also guys like Salt Peter, who, in contrast to the buggers, if I can call them, who go abroad and earn a quick buck, said, I want to live and die in Pali village, just doing odd jobs, taking clothes as reward for his services, doing some plumbing here and there. There were always those guys, the village barber, the village plumber, the odd job guys who lived and died in Pali village.
There were a lot of people like this. In fact, my father, to get very personal on this, worked for the railways. He was a clerk in the railways. When he was offered a job as an officer in Central Railway, he refused. Why did he refuse? Because he didn't want to leave Pali village. He'd have to relocate. So he refused. So there were a lot of people in Bandra at that time, in Pali village, who didn't want to go out anywhere. They were satisfied. They knew their lives were substandard, but that's fine. They didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have much of a social life, but that was fine. That's how they lived and that's how they died. They were very proud of their lives. And they were good people, basically.
Of course,
They were good people.
Yeah. Okay. Now you have a book reading tomorrow. Is that correct? So
Right.
will you just
I have
tell
a
us
book-
where it is? Godfrey Joseph Pereira is going to be reading from Bloodline Bandra, and these characters will come alive as he speaks them. So where is it?
I have a book reading tomorrow, the 29th January, Thursday, 6 p.m. onwards at Landmark Bookstore at the Infinity Mall in Andheri.
What time is that?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
onward.
tomorrow. Andheri Infinity Mall. Godfrey Joseph Pereira will be there. Maybe he'll give you an autographed copy of his book if you come for the reading. Oops, I did it again. Britney Spears, 9:35. Good morning. Britney Spears, oops, I did it again. Nupur Desai on Twitter. What fun listening to Tales of Pali Village with Hrishi K. That's where my office is. By any chance, do you work for my mate Brian Tellis? I know that Fountainhead has an office there, and I've spent some enjoyable moments there in the past. Meera Warrior, the spaceship in the midst of Santa Cruz deserves standalone mention. May top the list of unique structures in Mumbai. Yes, I plan to talk about that one. Kavish Munim, thank you, brother. Love your deep voice. It's classy. You're the best radio host I've ever heard. Well, Godfrey has a voice to die for too. Foodie Mama, good morning. Doc Painkiller GSV, good morning. Lisa, good morning. Prashant Rao, thank you for shouting out. Shubhodeep, how are you, brother? I'm in conversation with Godfrey Joseph Pereira. Bloodline Bandra is his novel. Now let's talk about the whole illegal immigrant phenomena in the US of A. You experienced it firsthand. You moved from Pali village, you went to New York City, and you got swallowed up by the Big Apple. And the H-1B visa is something that you talk about in great detail. And in light of the recent Cobra Gade case too, there are two sides of the story you get here. One is that maids and nannies go there and they're exploited. The other end of the spectrum, people say no, they take their sponsors for granted and they do a volte-face. So what really is happening?
Well, let's talk first about the H-1B visa, okay? I mean, what happens on an H-1B work visa in the United States of America is that if you hire me or sponsor me, I can only work for you. Consequently, what happens is that you take advantage of me because I have got nowhere else to go to. I'm not saying all Indians do this, but a lot of them do. And that's what happened to me in New York City. I was a war correspondent when I went there, and it still happened to me. I was tough, I was this, I was that, but, I got dismantled by the system that the Indians did to me. And it went on for years, and that's what I call legal slavery in Bloodline Bandra, is that I am bound to you. For me, there's no other place to go to. I'm bound for you. A lot of people say, well, why don't you just come back? The thing is that I had no money. I was pretty much homeless. I had nowhere to go. Plus, psychologically, I was breaking down. I had broken down. I went into a total nervous breakdown because of what they were doing to me. And the things that they do to you are horrible. As when my plane landed, they take me to the office and you're made to sleep on the floor for about a week. Then you're told, sorry, but you've got to keep on sleeping on the floor because there is no other place for you to go to because you're not earning enough of money. So it's a circle that keeps on turning around you and
there's no medical insurance. And
there is no medical
insurance. There's a very, very
insurance.
sad tale where the central protagonist, David, which does have shades of you, has a medical emergency. And, there is a quack who comes in and, does unmentionables. So things like that are happening on a daily basis, yeah?
Yes, yes, and yes, it is happening. And it's sad because, once again, I'm not trying to put the Indians down. I am Indian in the end, like I said.
Yeah, but your own community sometimes ill treats you more. It's like, women say to me all the time that a woman sometimes can be a woman's worst enemy, So, and Indians suddenly, when they go abroad, they turn on each other.
They turn on each other, and this is the truth, because in one of the places that I worked at, I think people should know this, is that the divide is so big that the Gujaratis will hang with the Gujaratis, the Catholics will hang with the Catholics, the Muslims would hang with the Muslims. So you've got this little India divided out there. And why is this so? Because everybody's fearing for their jobs. And everybody wants the other Indian to be fired. Why? Because then his job security gets a little more. It's madness, but it's happened, it's happening, and it happened to me, and I unraveled like a lot of people. I unraveled so badly that at one given moment of time, I tried to commit suicide in Hoboken. I tried to jump underneath a train and, end my life, because my life had no meaning, and then all hope was taken away. I couldn't come back home. I had sold off whatever I had sold off to go. I wasn't a rich person. And it went on and on and on. And at one time comes a time when, it breaks. You just break. I don't want to end my life. I never want to end my life. I love my life.
Well, it's wonderful that you held on. And all of a sudden, I feel wonderful that I haven't given in to any of those offers. Indian radio stations in the US, Indian radio stations in the UK, and Indian radio stations in the Middle East, which keep calling. Well, that's life. Owl City, good time. More pictures of Godfrey Joseph Pereira coming up at HRISHIKAY. Follow the handle. Tweet out any reactions to this interview. Facebook.com/radio1.mum. Like the page, and you can post on the timeline right under the pictures. One space your comment and name to 53650. We'll be back.
Win a Ford EcoSports.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
Thank you for your wonderful reactions to this interview of Godfrey Joseph Pereira. Varun Vora on Twitter. The glut of human resources makes it an employer's market. It's been that way for generations. The sad fact is that the Indian ethos doesn't prescribe any value to human life. Indians do this in India, not just abroad. Madhu S. Datta. The romance of Bandra is addictive. Lovely hearing you both. Hi, Blogwati ji. Yeah, we're completing 3 glorious years tomorrow, 94.3 Radio 1. I'm so glad you remember that. And see you at the party. Okay, now let's come back to that whole thing about the H-1B visa. And, we know one side of the story. The other end of the spectrum, like I said, during the Devyani Khobragade case, a lot of people turned around and said the maid, reached there and just decided to turncoat and probably found better opportunities. You have strong thoughts on that?
Well, I did write about the Devyani Khobragade case, and, yes, I do have strong thoughts. When this whole thing broke, I was in New York, and, people were just taking Khorbagade's side, and I was wondering why, because the maid Richard is Indian too. I can understand that, their dislike for American politics or whatever it is, and they were blaming on America for being heavy-handed. So may be the case, but the thing is that Khorbagade did lie on the application which she signed. One. Number two is, according to police reports, she was treating the maid like a servant. Now, people were saying things like she was a CIA agent. Her father made a statement saying that Richard was a CIA agent. That is not the truth, because I wrote about it. Another thing was, a lot of the Indians in India got onto Preet Bharadwaj's case. He was a prosecutor who's also an Indian. It's quite fascinating. Yeah. Here is an Indian prosecuting another Indian. And my thing
and apparently he has a track record of doing that.
He has a very good track record of doing it. And, you couldn't touch him and call him corrupt. And people said he's doing this for political office. That is not the truth. Khorbagade today, if she comes back to New York, she's going to be arrested. Let's be very, very clear on this. That case is still open. The only reason why Khorbagade was let off, and she came and left the US quietly, slipped back into India, that Khorbagade is not worth the trouble that was happening. There is a lot of trade between India and America. There's a lot of goodwill.
Sure.
She is not worth this. They let her go.
Let's come back to happier climes. Bloodline Bandra also has a very interesting scenario. The protagonist falls in love with a Japanese cello player, and at the other end of the spectrum, there is a homeless person who has a connection with Oppenheimer's deadly toy, as Sting would describe it, the father of the atom bomb.
Right.
Talk about that mechanics and what it really translates into.
Well, a lot of people don't seem to have got this in the novel. Robert Oppenheimer, this guy called Marty, worked with Oppenheimer in Princeton. And as everybody knows, Robert Oppenheimer is the father of the atomic bomb. Now, David's girlfriend, of course, and you know, Japan was Nagasaki and Hiroshima was bombed. David's girlfriend is Japanese. So you've got that emotional connection of David having these two homeless friends who were part of the atomic bomb, and then you've got David's girlfriend who is Japanese. You know, what is the feeling towards these two people who bombed her people literally to death? And I think it turned out to be a very, very interesting kind of tale between the four of them. That Hatsumi Nakamura is Japanese, and once again, I gotta state this because a lot of people have been saying that I had an affair with Hatsumi Nakamura. Well, I didn't. She just came out of my head. Really.
Diana King, say a little prayer for you. We're going to say bye-bye to Godfrey Joseph Pereira up ahead. 9:57 on the clock. My name is Hrishi K. His Ode to Bandra. Godfrey Joseph Pereira, a book called Bloodline Bandra in stores and online sites. You got to go pick it up. This is really Pali village in an entirely different light, the insider's view. Okay, before we go, where can people reach out to you, find out more about you on Facebook, on Twitter, and of course there is a reading tomorrow evening that you can tell us about. Yeah.
Okay, the Facebook page is facebook.com/Bloodline Bandra. The Twitter handle is @Godfrey J. Pereira and @Bloodline Bandra. Tomorrow is a book reading of Bloodline Bandra, 29 January, Thursday, at 6 p.m. From 6 p.m. onwards at Landmark Bookstore at the Infinity Mall in Andheri. If you come there, we can talk about anything you want about the novel.
Super stuff. And what's your day job now?
Well, I work in Hoboken, New Jersey. I'm the creative director of the Monroe Center for the Arts, which is an arts place. So we run theater and art and music and a lot of other stuff. So if you ever come to Hoboken, look me up. I'm right there.
Super stuff. Okay, it's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Up ahead, R.K. Lakshman, my tribute to him, part 2. I don't know if you heard Satish Acharya yesterday. Today, it's Sudhir Telang, one of the foremost political cartoonists of our generation. Sudhir is going to be Lakshman. Remember, he passed away yesterday. Snow Ale, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Thank you, Godfrey Joseph Pereira. Full power to you and Bloodline Bandra.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here, Hrishi K. Thank you.